This video was brought to you by the lovely members of my Patreon. My interactions with Black men have been very, very interesting because I'm attracted to Black men. I would love to date a Black man. I would love to be able to have a relationship with a Black man. It just doesn't really seem like they want to have a relationship with me. Hey guys, it's Kat and it's time for yet another episode of True Tea. Thank you so much for joining me here for yet another episode of True Tea. I appreciate those of you guys who come here every single week, eager for a cup of True Tea. 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is when we upload these videos. And if you're brand new here, I would love for you to join me. For those of you guys who've been here for a while, I'm really curious, how have you guys been? What have you guys been up to? I've been great. I went to my P.O. box the other day and I got this really, really cute package in my P.O. box. It was all the way from Japan, sent to me from a woman named Risuko. And she sent me this really beautifully handwritten letter. And you can kind of see that there are, you know, these Japanese characters. Oh, focus, please focus. On the top, and I appreciate the hell out of it. So she sent me also these adorable cat stickers. Clearly she knows what I want. She knows what I like. I'm gonna try to figure out a cute place to put these, but it's like a cat robot and stuff. It's super, super cute. So yeah, anyway, I just want to show you guys that. If you guys ever want to send me stuff into my P.O. box, there are, you know, there's the address right over here. That's how you guys can put stuff in my box if that's something that you're into doing, if you know what I mean. Haha, waka waka. But anyway, let's get into this video. We're gonna be having a conversation about my interactions with Black men. So it's gonna be a really hard conversation to have, but you know, we'll have some tea. It'll be a whole thing. We'll see how this goes. So I'm drinking some green tea. You know, like I said in my previous video, I am struggling with tea right now. So taking all your tea suggestions. Would love to get something other than Teavana, even though I love Teavana so much. I love Teavana so much. But, you know, I'm trying to expand my horizons. So I will take your tea suggestions, and, you know, you can also send me tea to my P.O. box. That would also be helpful too. So anyway, let's take a sip of this and let's get into this video. So I'll be honest, I'm pretty nervous about having this conversation. I feel like this is a conversation that's not going to go super well, because I feel like anytime someone like myself dips my toes into this discourse, things just don't really go super well. But you know, listen, I feel like I have a valid experience, so I wanted to talk about it. So let's talk about it. So I guess I wanted to introduce myself for those of you guys who, if for some reason this is the very first video of mine that you're watching. And I guess this is gonna lead the rest of the conversation because I'm a little bit complicated, and I think maybe that is feeding into this particular conversation. So first and foremost, my name is Kathryn. I'm 29 years old. I am polyamorous. I am transgender, very sex positive, very involved in the kink and BDSM community. And I am quite alternative, I guess you could say, in the way that I navigate through the world, right? Now I'm not coming on you on some, you know, I'm just so different, that's why people don't understand me kind of stuff. But it's more like, I think for a lot of people, that's in general, just not even just Black men, it's in general very, very hard to swallow, right? Now I'm polyamorous, and currently I have 3 partners. All of my partners as of now are white. Years and years and years ago, I had a partner who I had on this channel, and he was a white passing man. Very, very, he's, you know, a white boy, but he's white passing, he's mixed, you know. I respect that, happy for that, you know, totally valid or whatever, white man. But you know, and because I had a white partner, and because I was making content about race and racism, I had a lot of people attacking me. And to be completely honest with you guys, that was really frustrating for me because I would not date a white man who I felt didn't fully get it. Now, there's other conversations to be had about that man. I did make this video over here you can watch if you want to hear some of these conversations over here. We're not going to get into that in this video, but I will say for who he was a good person, right? And that's kind of the general baseline of the people that I try to date. They have to be good people, right? But being a Black, sex positive, polyamorous trans girl, I know that I'm a little complicated. And I understand that I think for men in general, that's a lot to handle. But my interactions with Black men have been very, very interesting because I'm attracted to Black men. I would love to date a Black man. I would love to be able to have a relationship with a Black man. It just doesn't really seem like they want to have a relationship with me. And because of that, when I came onto YouTube and brought this, cis dude who identified as heterosexual, who came onto my channel and said, hey, I love this trans woman. It was really frustrating to me because to hear all these people say, oh, he's white and attack him for his race, because Black men aren't out here claiming people like me. A lot of Black men aren't out there claiming trans women. And the thing about it is that throughout my entire life, Black men have been interested in me. Black men have pursued me. Black men have openly and eagerly said that they, would like to pursue something with me, but that something with me is usually not anything that could make them look a certain way, right? One of the things that brought this on was I unfortunately made the decision to reopen my Tinder page. I don't know why I decided to do that. It is 100% a mistake, but I was traveling, I was bored, and I opened it up, right? And I matched with this really, really handsome Black guy. Now, I don't want to say this, but it just kind of is true for me. I would say most men do not read profiles on Tinder, but pretty much every Black guy that I match with on Tinder, when I ask them if they've read my profile, they almost never have, pretty universally. And I don't want to say that as like a generalization, but it just is kind of my experience, right? Matched with this guy. He was really, 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 really cute. I was very, very interested in connecting with him. I asked if he read my profile. He said that he did. And we started to talk about, his sort of situation. And one of the things that he mentioned, and this is probably gonna be the subject of another video, was, he's attracted to trans women because he's attracted to women. But one of his biggest reservations is falling in love with a cis woman who would judge him for his involvement with trans women, right? And it's so funny because a lot of times when I talk about trans experience, listen, oh my gosh, when I made my video about that Black guy whose name I do not remember, I should really remember that guy's name. I had so many comments from Black women who really wanted to kind of come on and say, these men are gay, he's gay, and attack him, right? And I remember I read a comment from somebody that, again, this is probably gonna be the subject of another sort of thing, but I don't want to get into the whole whether or not men are gay for dating transgender women. To me, the obvious answer is no. I wish sometimes gay men were interested in me, but they're not. They're not. But that's the way that a lot of people outside of the situation like for it to be. The only way that they can reason with trans attraction is to say that I'm a man and the men who are attracted to me are attracted to men, which is not the way that this works, but whatever. That's the way that you want to look at it. It's wrong, but you have every right to be wrong loudly. But anyway, one of the things that a cis straight woman said, was that she would not consider a man heterosexual if he's involved with me, because to her, being heterosexual means being involved with only cis women, right? That's what she said, right? And that just made me think a lot, especially because it was a Black woman who oftentimes, when Black women say this, they are talking about Black men. And it made me think about my interactions with Black men, right? I get hit up by Black men all the time. I am very attracted to Black men, right? I also have my kind of baseline standard rules of engagement for gaining access to this. And for me, it's not a complicated thing. For me, it's not a list that doesn't make sense. It's a very sensible, reasonable list, right? I expect men who are interested in me to be comfortable enough to be seen with me. I don't believe in being anyone's secret. I don't believe in being anyone's, fantasy desire that they only, engage with behind closed doors. I don't believe in having relationships that don't go beyond my apartment. And my regular, I think for some people, they might not understand that this is the life for at least for me as a trans woman. My regular experience is men being very eager to take me out and show me a great time and be seen with me. Men are usually pretty proud to be seen with me. I mean, so I don't respond well to men who just aren't comfortable doing that, right? A lot of Black men who have contacted me, it's like they will try their hardest to not ever to come up with a really intense excuse and reason why they can't do that, right? I mean, I remember this one time, there's this Black guy who I was very attracted to. I'd matched with him on Tinder and then later saw him at the bar that I used to go to. He was singing karaoke. He was very, very good. I was very attracted to him, right? And he kind of engaged with me when he saw me at the bar, but not too much because he was with other people. And then he later hit me up and we started talking about a date and we set up a date. And I show up at the bar and, you know, I'm looking real cute. My hair was blonde back then. I remember exactly what I was wearing. I looked very, very cute. I was really excited to talk to him and get to know him. He's an actor in Los Angeles. I got a lot of stories to tell, I'm sure. And we're supposed to meet at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock comes and goes, right? So, you know, in the past, I used to do this thing where I would leave guys these long ass messages. Oh, you'll never get a woman like me. Da 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 da. Like I would just go off. But I've been trying to woo-saw and to not do all of that. And so, you know, I was like, look, maybe something happened. Maybe something da 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 da. I don't know, right? I don't know. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, right? And so I text him and I text him a bit and then I call him, right? And then he texts me back and he says, oh my gosh, my friends from Sweden came in to town and, you know, one of them has a really, really bad stomach something or other. So we had to go take him to the hospital. And now I'm kind of dealing with him in the hospital right now. I mean, this crazy sort of experience, this whole sort of thing that happened, right? I'm like, cool. I'm an understanding person. I'm a patient person. I said, you know what? You're taking care of your friend. You're being a good guy. Respect, right? But I'm at the bar, you know, and I'm like, you know what? Listen, since he's not going to take me out on a date, let me take myself on a date. And so, you know, I go out and I'm, you know, drinking at this bar. It was a really, really nice bar. I had these really, really nice cocktails at this bar. And I was like, we're just going to have a good old time. I looked really, really hot. Not, you know, I looked good. And I wasn't going to waste the outfit. Basically, I wasn't going to waste the outfit. Okay. And so midnight comes around, right? And he's like, well, hey, you know, I've been drinking with my friends. And I was wondering if, you know, I could come over and give you a hug real quick. And so now I didn't want to lose my shit because it was like, you know what? First, your friend has a stomach thing. Now you're getting drinks with them. And now conveniently at midnight, you're available, but not to meet me out, not to go out, not to meet me out and about, right? But to come over and give me a hug, right? And so I kind of go off on him. You know, because here's the thing with, I don't want to say this because it sounds really bad. And I'm pretty sure by the time this video goes up, my other video will be up, but I'm very drawn to very dominant men. I would say all of my partners currently are very dominant men. They're the kind of men who don't require my prodding, don't require my begging, don't require me to frankly debase myself to prove that I'm worthy of their time, right? They respect me, they care about me, and they make an effort to actually spend time with me, right? So I went off on him and said, you know what? Because this was after, you know, we'd already talked and he'd had every excuse not to meet me before that. And I shouldn't even have given this chance for this one date. And then he, you know, does this whole thing and has this all convoluted story. I'm pissed because everything told me not to give this guy a chance, but I gave him a chance because part of me, you know, growing up where I grew up, I am understanding of the fact that there's probably still some anti-blackness, internalized anti-blackness that I'm unpacking. And so I say, you know what, this black guy who I'm attracted to, who I'm interested in, maybe he didn't treat me so well, but would cutting him off be, you know, this internalized just reason that I'm creating to not give, you know, these conversations you have with yourself, you know, especially when you're trying to be a socially conscious person, like you kind of gaslight yourself into giving these men chances when they don't deserve it, right? I went off on him and I told him, you know, I'm used to dominant men. I'm used to men who want to make time with me. You want to come over and hug me, da 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 da. That's not the way that this is going to go. That's not what it's going to go. You're interested in meeting me for a drink or we're not meeting at all. I'm not going to pursue you. I'm not going to chase you. I'm not going to follow you around like I'm a lost puppy. If you're interested in me, you're going to make an effort to connect with me. That just is what it is. And I don't have to say that to most men. I don't have to have those conversations with most men. I don't have to sort of do this weird wrestling sort of thing of you're going to do this with me or else, basically. But frankly, and I hate to say it, with black men, it's almost always like that. It's almost always like pulling teeth to just get them to sit in public with me, you know? And that's a really hard reality for me to deal with when I'm yelled at online for dating white men. You know, obviously black men and white men have different experiences, right? Obviously. I would say that black men are navigating the complicated, multi-layered experience of black masculinity in a very white supremacist society, where they have to be even more aware of the way that they carry themselves, right? And I would say in general, for most men who are attracted to transgender women, it's actually just easier for them not to date us. It's just actually easier. It complicates most of the relationships, and cis women are more common. And if they could avoid pursuing and being with transgender women, that would be the thing that would make sense for them, right? But you know, they still hit me up. They still contact me. And it seems like black men almost consistently just want to fuck. They just want to fuck, you know? And here's another thing. This is another thing. I would say also, here's another important clarification layer. In general, the kind of men that I'm attracted to, I'm very attracted to very like open-minded, free-spirited, I don't give a fuck how any other person feels about me kind of people. I don't respond well to people who are doing a lot of image management. I don't, especially because I'm in a position in life now where I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. If you judge me for who I am, that's fine. You can do that, you know, but I'm not going to sit over here and have these complicated conversations about myself, about, you know, why I need to change who I am so that I can, you know, make you more comfortable. That's just not what it's going to be. I really enjoy men who have that very kind of punk rock, fuck you, I don't care kind of perspective. And those are the men that I tend to date. Those are the men that I tend to date, right? So there are, in my opinion, black men like that who exist, but those black men usually like white women. And that's bringing me to the next sort of layer of this, right? So a lot of times when we have these conversations, people say, well, you know, black men have a lower socioeconomic sort of position in the world, right? So maybe that's why they don't want to go out and take you on dates and things like that, because they're just so broke. Maybe all they can afford is giving you some dick. Okay. Now, like I said, I'm polyamorous, okay? And being polyamorous, especially being polyamorous and then also connected to a polyamory community, you see it. And I've ranted about this before on this channel, but at least in LA, the poly community makes most men's preferences very obvious. Very, very, very obvious. I've mentioned this in the past, but when I go to poly events, and I meet other Black women, they're almost never partnered. They're almost never anyone's primary. They exist, they have partners, but they're almost never positioned in the relationship as, I mean, if you're into the hierarchical thing, they're almost never positioned as the head of, you know, the situation. That's just very common, you know? And I know, I'm thinking of one specific Black guy, but I'm not going to get in. I don't be too specific because our community is so small that I feel like people could figure it out. But there's like one specific Black guy who we connected on OkCupid, and there was a mutual attraction there, right? And every time I see him at an event, I always try to make some sort of connection with him, but he's always just head deep in white women. Oh, just every single time I've ever seen him. And this is the kind of guy who's an intersectional feminist. He's, you know, all of these things. He's so woke. He's a leftist, da 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 da, blah, 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 blah. He's all of these things, pro-Black, da 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 da. But when I run into him and I try to connect with him, he's just always buried in white women. And a lot of the ways in which I've navigated around Black polyamorous men that I've found myself attracted to and been interested in and tried to pursue, it's always this sort of cat and mouse game of they've got some white partner that they are prioritizing in this context, and I'm just sort of chasing around after them. They never really have enough time for me. Meanwhile, there are these white polyamorous men who are very interested in me and do want to pursue me and aren't going to require me to chase after them. You know, and it's kind of one of those things where, you know, when we have these conversations about, you know, why Black women shouldn't date outside of their race, which I don't even want to play into that, but let's just talk about it, right? For me, I hate the implication that my body is owned by Black men, especially when the reality for me has been that they don't want to claim me. You know? One of the things that brought on this conversation was I had a couple of Black men who kind of left the same comment in my comment section of Black trans women always date, you know, white guys. Black trans women always date white guys, you know? It's bizarre for me to hear comments like that and pursue Black men who don't at all, they're not even comparable to the white men that I deal with. And I know that sounds really harsh, but if I met a Black guy who upon meeting me was very taken by me, wanted to spend time with me, you know, was very, very eager to take me on a date and things like that, it would almost feel like I was in a simulation. That's how uncommon it's been for me. It's been so incredibly uncommon. I don't want to say or believe that it just doesn't exist or that it could never happen. But all signs kind of point to this is going to be a really impossible thing for you to find. And so to be in a position where people are kind of being like, oh my gosh, you're dating a white guy, da 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 da, it's very, very, very annoying. It's very, very, very annoying because I'm super open to dating Black men. I'm very attracted to Black men. And I haven't really been able to formulate a way of saying this and that I think makes sense and doesn't maybe sound problematic to other people. But one of the things I have noticed is that when I find a Black man attractive, it is a little different than the way that I find a white man attractive. Like there's almost something, I don't even know what it is. There's almost something more accented about that. But what happens is I'll find that man attractive, I'll admire him, and he'll require me to chase him in a way that the average man who interacts with me and expresses interest in me just doesn't require me to do. You know, I hate this idea that if I want to date a Black man, I need to be so patient, I need to be so kind, I need to be so forgiving, I need to lower my standards so low that I would accept this man after, you know, flaking on my date and not showing up, coming over at midnight to give me a hug. No. And you know, from what I've heard from other Black women, specifically cis Black women, this might be an LA thing. I don't know if it's a thing everywhere. I do know Black women who are in relationships with Black men, but they're not in Los Angeles. I just feel like a lot of the black men that I've been interested in are always chasing white women constantly. You know what? Actually, you know what? It's so funny I mentioned this. I do have one guy. There is one guy who I know through the goth community who just met me at like the wrong night. I had this situation where, story of my life, I was supposed to go on this date with this guy. That guy canceled on me because he broke up with this other girl and he was going through all this emotional shit, you know, canceled our date. I was bummed out about it. Really, really sad. Black goth guy who was interested in me at the time and is very, very cute. And I was very interested in him. Invited me out to go to this goth event. I go to said goth event. Guy who cancels date was there. Guy who cancels date, I don't know how related this is, but it does feed into something I said earlier, was the man of color, right? And so I show up and he's there and he canceled his date because he was just so emotional, and just couldn't deal with it and all, and there he is. And so unfortunately, when that guy tried to spend time with me, I was just not in the right headspace. And then he moved to Vegas. And so he doesn't live out here anymore. But he's like the only black man in like the 3 years I've been in Los Angeles that expressed really blatant attraction to me, who was totally accepting. He's very, you know, open in all these things. He's exactly what I like. And he just met me at the wrong time and then moved out of state, right? It just happens that way, right? I want to date a black man. I want to have a black partner. I don't want it to be this just fight all the time. I don't. It's very hard for me to sit around and listen to black men come up for excuses as to why they can't spend time with me, as to why they can't do this and do that. And then because I'm poly and because I see this, see the complete opposite way that they treat white women. Like the same kind of guy who only wanted to come over at midnight to fuck me will take a white woman out on a date without a second thought. A white cis woman out on a date without a second thought. You know? It's frustrating. I mean, and then even when and maybe some people hearing this will say, well, maybe it's because you're trans. I've known black men who were in relationships with trans women. Very rarely are they black trans women, you know, because another layer of all of this is that there is this weird racial hierarchy among trans women where, you know, Asian women are the most feminine, you know, black women are the most masculine and dominant, and this, you know, it's a whole sort of annoying sort of thing based on racism, frankly, that we navigate around as trans women. And it's not that different from the way that cis women, you know, navigate through race and things like that, race and desirability. It's really not different at all. But, you know, there are layers given certain differences, right? But, you know, that's the thing. It's just been this consistently frustrating experience. Now, with that all being said, that doesn't mean I'm writing all black men off. Not at all. Not at all whatsoever. I'm just saying that it's been very complicated to me. And it's not, like I said early on, it's not just black men. To me, it's been men of color in general. In general. You know, there's the only man of color that I'm kind of dating is this Asian guy who I'm into, but, you know, he's always busy and and doesn't have time. And, you know, we spend a lot of time together. It is nice to sort of date a person of color and have conversations that don't, you know, revolve around navigating through whiteness. That is kind of nice. But, you know, in general, it just seems like men of color have a harder time justifying a relationship with me. Maybe if I were cis, that would be a totally different thing, right? But that's just been my experience. So I virtually refuse to feel bad about having white partners. I virtually refuse, because I'm not going to be I'm not the sort of person who's going to sit around and just wait for the perfect black man. And, you know, that's the only sort of people I'm going to date. Those are the only sort of people I'm going to be with. That's not the sort of person I am, especially when I have all of these men who are interested in me, you know, these men who will take me out without even a second thought. I'm not going to do it. So anyway, I wanted to sort of share that with you guys. I think this is the best way that I've ever been able to express this. But I wanted to tell you guys about that stuff because it's been on my mind a lot. it makes me sad on Tinder because I always match with these really attractive Black men. And then I ask them if they read my profile and they never have. They never have. And it's really frustrating because I'm like, God damn it. Because sometimes when I ask them if they read my profile, I mean, a lot of the guys are really nice about it, but there are a lot of times where they're not. There's a lot of times where they're not. And I guess in the back of my mind too, another thing that I'm unpacking is the fact that as a Black transgender woman, when you look at the men who kill us, they're usually Black men, you know? And I'm a little nervous about the possibility of how that might go. You know, I mean, we won't get into it now, but a lot of times when you see someone killing a trans woman, it's not because they tricked them. It's not because the person didn't know. It's because he did and wanted to protect himself, right? Because they were intimate partners, right? Trans women experience intimate partner violence just like cis women, right? The defense is just often, oh, well, he didn't know and that's what happened. And that's usually not the case, right? But it's not believed or seen that way because people they don't want to believe that people could actually want to be in relationships with transgender women. And unfortunately, I'm gonna add on a caveat and say, especially Black people, especially in my experience, you know? So yeah, that's what I had to say. I'm mostly interested in hearing from Black people on this. I really don't want to hear from non-Black people unless you're talking about your own experience, maybe experiencing something similar. Really don't kind of want your opinion on Black men, so hopefully you guys will understand why I feel that way. Anyway, that is all I had to say. If you made it this far in the video, I would highly suggest you put this emoji in the comment section so that I know that you watched this entire video. I would greatly appreciate it. If you guys don't know how to do that, if you're on desktop, you don't know how to access that, just copy and paste other people, it's okay. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Right now you're looking at 2 videos you can watch if you'd like to continue to sip true tea right here on this channel. Also in the corner, there are several ways you can send me a tip. And also in the other corner, you can send me, you know, packages to that particular address. I love receiving your packages. So I will see you guys next week. Bye.